I'm here with my dear beloved friend Cameron Powers of Musical Ambassadors of Peace, formerly Musical Missions of Peace, in Boulder, Colorado. And I wanted to take an opportunity to speak with Cameron and to get some footage with him and share, because he has had such an incredible life. He and his partner Christina, who hopefully we'll get to talk with a little bit later, have traveled the world sharing a very powerful music mission, music message of peace and love and harmony around the planet. And I'm just blessed to know this man and his lovely partner, and to have had them as close personal friends of mine for many, many years in Boulder, Colorado. So I wanted to introduce Cameron Powers to you today and to have him share a little bit about his projects and what he's been doing and what he's doing in the future as well. So Cameron, would you just please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Musical Ambassadors of Peace and what it stands for, what it represents, and then I'm going to ask you some questions about how it all started.
Musical Ambassadors of Peace evolved from a lifestyle that I was leading, and other people who've been traveling and partnering with me have participated. And it goes back 50 years now, and it involves exploring and loving cultures in South America and in the Mediterranean world, specifically Greece, and then later Egypt and Syria and Iraq. Those are the cultures that I've ended up focusing on falling in love with. It's got to do with the music and the ancient wisdom. And at some point, somebody noticed what we were doing, and they gifted us a nonprofit.
Oh.
It wasn't my idea, it just evolved.
So what is the mission statement for Musical Ambassadors of Peace now?
We believe that people that sing and dance together are less likely to shoot each other.
In my words, those who play together stay together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true, right? When we have that connection of creativity and something that we enjoy, and music is the great connector. I mean, obviously, this is why in a lot of cultures it's one of the first things when a dominating culture comes in, right? It's one of the first things they take is their music, because it's really what connects us as humans. So when you started this work, you started in 2003 with this organization doing this, but you had already been traveling the world doing this prior to the organization.
It turns out I'd been doing the musical ambassador work for many decades before that, but I didn't call it that. I used to run what were called Cameron's Terrible Tours in South America, for people who wanted to walk for 3 days to get to a village that was very remote, and then participate in falling in love with the dance and the music and the language spoken. And then I moved it all to Greece, and then I moved it all to Egypt. And then, because I had friends from Iraq who had gifted me with some of the musical keys to their beautiful ancient culture, way back in the 1980s, I felt especially brokenhearted when I saw that the government of my country was going to bomb their capital city. And I just thought I should do what I could, which of course as a musical ambassador was to share the wealth of their ancient cultural musical wisdom here in the West. Of course, they already know about it over there, but they love to see you show up. For example, when Egyptians see that an American is showcasing the beauty of Iraqi culture, then they get excited about it in Egypt,
of course,
too,
yeah.
because they share so many common roots. But what actually happened was fortuitous. I just was leaving this country to spend time with Christina in Jordan in 2002, before the U.S. government actually started the bombing. And we, through various connections in Baghdad, had been invited to do a concert in Baghdad. Me and Christina, we were going to play Iraqi music for Iraqis in Baghdad, and they invited us. But the gates were closing for Americans because the whole world knew that the Americans were about to bomb Iraq more. So we were in Jordan waiting to get into Baghdad. It didn't happen. We came back to America for a bit, and then we went back to Egypt and then to Jordan. And then we sang Iraqi music for the Jordanian government officials and in Amman, Jordan.
Wow.
And they said, well, our rule says that we don't allow anyone who's not military or card-carrying New York Times to cross this border, but for you, we're going to make an exception.
So was that the first year that you had gone to the Middle East?
No,
When did you first start going to the Middle East?
I started, actually, I had lived in Greece back in the 1970s, and my kids are half Greek. So if you call Greece the Middle East, I had been there on and off for a long time. But my first trip to Egypt was in 1995 when I went with a dancer friend, after having stayed home in Colorado for a long time to raise kids.
Mm-hmm.
But when I finally went to Egypt, I just had an instant deep attraction with the real culture called Egypt. And so then it expanded to the travels.
So when you started the musical ambassadors, which was then musical missions, what was your actual intention? What was the driving force behind that, to bring awareness to, because there was so much propaganda at that time, especially about the Middle East and blah blah blah. And so when you kind of decided that you were going to take that on and really to make a statement with that, what was the sort of driving force behind that?
Well, as I said, it wasn't really my idea. I was just doing what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And to formalize it by building a nonprofit organization around it was somebody else's idea.
Mm-hmm.
But once that was gifted to me and to Christina, we started shaping it into
Mm-hmm.
something.
Mm-hmm.
But really the key events that triggered that were the fact that when we were talking to those Jordanian government officials in Amman, they said, we'll make an exception, and they called somebody at the border into Iraq. And then when we got to the border, we couldn't find them, so we had to do it all over again. We had to sing Iraqi love songs for the Jordanian soldiers that were guarding the border, and they made the same choice.
Yeah.
They said,
Wow.
we don't know who you are, but if you're singing that, you can do whatever you want.
That's beautiful. So music was really that great opener. It was a way that you got access to something that otherwise maybe you didn't have access to, right?
And it's because in that part of the world, the indigenous roots are still more powerful than modern governments. As we all know, those modern governments were kind of imposed by British and French occupations after World War I. And people who actually live there don't even take them all that seriously, so they have the power to overturn government rules at the spur of a moment. If somebody decides to let somebody do something or not, then
Right.
they do.
Right. So what's happening now with Musical Ambassadors? Because I know you've just launched a new website, and you can go to their website as well and see some of the footage. There's a lot of videos. You have videos from all over, from lots of different times. They're doing some work now. You're doing some work with women, with some of the ISIS, you were saying the sex slaves of the ISIS?
Yeah, the Yazidi women who've been recently freed from about 2 years of sex slavery under ISIS or ISIL or Daesh, whatever you want to call them. We have a program in northern Iraq that helps them dance and drum and sing their way back into their bodies so they can move on forward into the future with their lives. There's 19 refugee camps in northern Iraq devoted to providing shelter to these displaced Yazidi women. And we have a program we have one of our musical ambassadors is from northern Iraq, Dilkhwaz Ahmed, and she's been helping us create programs there for some years now.
And what kind of results are they seeing so far with the women? 'Cause that, yeah, obviously that's near and dear to my heart, working with women in drumming. But what are the what kind of results are they seeing so far? Are they seeing some powerful healing work happening there?
Well, yes, it's
Of course.
it's off the charts. You know, there are other NGOs, nonprofits that work on providing shelter and food
Mm-hmm.
and medicine,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't necessarily restore someone's confidence in their own soul
Absolutely.
to move forward if they've lost their husbands or their children's or, you know,
Everything.
their home
Yeah.
of 2,000 or 3,000 years.
Yeah.
So what we do is we come back in there and we don't bring in our music or someone else's music. We take the trouble to learn their music, and then we bring in a bunch of drums and we stage events where these women come in and they pick up a drum and they start singing along with one of our musical ambassadors who already knows some of their favorite love songs, and they start singing their favorite love songs, and something magic happens
Mm-hmm.
that pours water back into those dehydrated souls,
Yeah.
and they sprout something green there
Yeah, absolutely.
again.
It was on August 2016, but I went more than one time.
Okay.
But this time specifically, the drums work very good. And other groups keep calling me, Dilquas, you ignored us. What about us? I say, I'm working on it.
So what are you foreseeing in the future for musical ambassadors? What would you
I'm
like?
seeing
Would you
a-
like to see it become or transfer?
There's so many parts of the world, places that you're familiar with, like Cuba, like China, like Russia, like Iran, like Bolivia, like Venezuela, you know, places all over the world where the Western English language media has painted these people into some kind of shadowy corner.
Yep.
You know, it makes people think that they're bad people. Well, of course, if you actually go there and get to know them, you discover that, you know, they have ancient music and dance traditions and ancient ways of doing things that, because the human animal is a total sum of all the cultures on planet Earth, we all need to learn from each other. If we befriend each other, then we open these channels, and the amount of soul growth that happens on both sides is off the charts. So we simply facilitate that, and we've had programs, you know, in Syria and Iraq and in Mexico, and we've done our presentations in Venezuela and so on and so forth. It's been building. Now our organization has something like 10 or 12 musical ambassadors working on projects. More are coming in as we speak, and you know, also I want to go back when we were in Baghdad and we were singing there. The Arab World Press covered us, and the Egyptians found out about Cameron and Christina singing Iraqi music on the streets of Baghdad. We had come with an oud, you know, the traditional musical instrument, and we were singing in the Arabic dialect of Iraq. And so they invited us to sing for 60,000 Egyptians in the Cairo Stadium about 3 months after we were in Baghdad.
So amazing.
And we were on all of the Egyptian talk shows that were kind of equivalent to the American Oprah Winfrey show.
And what year was that?
2003.
Right.
It was a few months after we were in Baghdad. We came back to Colorado, and then the Egyptians flew us to Cairo and put us up, actually, that time in a fancy hotel and everything, and put lipstick on us in their Cairo, Hollywood, you know.
Mr. Cameron Powers and Christina Sofia. Welcome. I would like to welcome you in Egypt and here at TV. Tell me
Pleasure having you with us. First, I'd like to ask you, for how long have you been here?
But first, we were in the Cairo Stadium singing Egyptian music, and we could hear a large percentage of 60,000 Egyptians singing along with us because we were singing their music. That's our approach. We don't take someone else's music to a foreign country.
Right.
We go to that foreign country.
Absolutely, because
and
you're honoring that which they
Exactly.
are, and that's such a beautiful way that, you know, when we travel around the world and we meet people where they're at, it automatically creates more opportunity for receptivity. Because if you're coming there with your own, and this is just, you know, what I found traveling the world anywhere, you go there with your own beliefs and your own stuff, and you try to project that onto them, and it's just kind of offensive. It's just sort of, you know, people just don't really know what to think about it. And that's part of the reason that often Americans don't have the great reputation as tourists, because we go there and we're so strong and abrupt, and, you know, it's all about the American way, where what happens when we go there and we say, we want to learn from you. We want to get what you have and just understand it and learn from it and really honor you in that way. That's, to me, a whole different approach, and that's what you guys have been doing with Musical Ambassadors.
That's exactly what we've been doing.
It's
You know,
beautiful.
one of my favorite projects was in Syria when there were 3 million Iraqi refugees in Syria. Syria was the only country in the world that let in more than a few tens of thousands of Iraqi refugees. I think Sweden was the second most generous by letting in 70,000 Iraqi refugees. Everyone else had their quotas full, but the Syrian government let in 3 million.
Wow.
So we were busy in Damascus setting up programs to pay Iraqi refugee musicians a salary to teach their own culture and music to Iraqi refugee children that were also in that
That's
population.
beautiful.
تمرين عجم دو
هذا من أي مقام؟ نسمعها؟ يلا.
من عليك وانا من بعيد لبعيد
على الوزن.
أمان 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 يابا
The music I play and the instrument I play, it's related with my country. And
روى الزيتون روى الزيتون من دمعي ولا راك ولا راك ولا راك ترى الغيرك لا والله
I loved that project.
Well, we're going to hear some more of your stories. We're going to sign off for this first little segment today. Is there anything that you would like to share in closing about how people can contribute to the organization, how they can support your work in the world? Just to share the website and any information on how they can be part of what you're doing?
It's very easy if you just go to musicalambassadorsofpeace.org. Remember, the .org is the signature of a nonprofit organization, and go to explore whatever information you're curious about, and of course there's an opportunity to donate to help support us.
Awesome. And please do. Cameron's been doing great work, and the organization is growing, and they need your support. Thank you so much. This is Cheri Shanti with Cameron Powers. We'll see you. We're going to have a couple more segments with Cameron, so be sure to watch for those coming up soon. Thanks.
Stay tuned.
Bye.